In late November 2009, the Wild Futures Monkey Sanctuary received a letter from a lady who was looking for a home for her 3 pet capuchin monkeys, Grips, Gizzie and Kiwi. The lady, who was now in her 70s, had kept the monkeys for a number of years and, by her own admission, could no longer offer the level of care that these complex and intelligent creatures require. An initial visit confirmed that the monkeys' enclosures were dilapidated and had been stripped bare of any enrichment. Localised and largely ineffective heating meant that the monkeys' living quarters were extremely cold, and perhaps most worryingly, all 3 monkeys were showing physical signs that they may be suffering from diabetes. Wild Futures made the necessary arrangements and, on the morning of the 2nd of February, set out from the sanctuary site in Cornwall to make the long drive to the monkeys' home. The first thing that Wild Futures had to do was devise a way of catching the monkeys in order to transport them. All monkeys are wild animals and can give a nasty bite, so their capture had to be carefully planned in order to reduce human risk and to ensure limited stress for the monkeys.
Just arrived. We have been looking at the enclosures. We're trying to enclose them in their sleeping box, put a hatch on it. Then make a support table in front of it, so we can put travel cages one by one in front of it. Ideally, we shoot them all in one box to start off, and then separate them down here into 2 or 3 boxes, whatever.
What's your first impression of the territory that these monkeys are in?
Yeah, I mean, at one time it probably was fine for 1 or 2 monkeys, but it's got old and small and cold, so it's not a very happy place for them.
The Wild Futures maintenance team are experts in the design and building of monkey enclosures. Prior to arrival, they had devised a special hatch system which allowed the monkeys to be closed into their sleeping box, ready to be moved to their transport cages via controls managed from outside the cage. The monkeys were shut out momentarily while the ready-made hatch was fitted, and then they were let back in to have a look at the strange contraption in front of their sleeping box. Suspicious of change, Grips entered first and looked warily at the new hatch before tentatively exploring. Kiwi, the young female, followed closely behind, before Gizzie, the little old lady of the group, decided it was safe to go back into her indoor space, bringing up the rear of the small troop.
Yeah, so Marian's just signed the papers, which basically hands over responsibility and ownership of the monkeys to us.
Excellent.
And she then knows that they are safe and that we will then give them a home for life.
That evening, after a long day of driving, building and planning, the team found time to relax, proposing a toast to the imminent arrivals. The monkeys were booked in for a full medical at the vets at 2:30 in the afternoon, which meant an early start for the team as they set off to pick up Grips, Kiwi and Gizzie, hoping the capture would be smooth and stress-free for all involved. On arrival, final touches were put in place and the monkeys quietly closed into their sleeping box. The transport crate was placed carefully in front of the box and the hatch reopened. With just one little squeak, all 3 monkeys moved into the transport crate and were closed in. A great result for the maintenance and welfare team. The careful planning had paid off, and what could have been a distressing capture was avoided. The 3 were huddled close together in their transport box, and so initial plans of splitting them for the journey were abandoned, and instead an extension was added to their transport crate to allow easy movement for the 3 of them on the journey. Once loaded into the car, it was off again on the long journey home. monkeys doing on the journey?
Oh, they're tired and a bit frightened. But we've tried to give them a little bit of food. They mustn't have any more until they get to the vets now. And we've offered them some drink.
They're very quiet,
all
aren't
together. They're very, very quiet.
Why do you think that is?
Well, they seem to be quite quiet characters anyway. But either probably because they're a bit scared, they're just huddling in together and waiting to see what will happen.
Finally, after much traffic, rain and over 300 miles, the team arrive with their new charges at the vets.
All the monkeys that we rescue or rehome have to have a thorough vet check, which means that they get a good physical examination and blood tests are taken and x-rays. It's just so we can be quite sure of their physical condition. But pet monkeys are often kept in cages that are too small so that they don't get enough exercise, sufficient sunlight, and their diet is generally quite poor. And that can throw up all kinds of problems, like poor bone density. So the x-rays can show us that, whether they've got any skeletal problems, and we can then adapt their diet and give them appropriate treatment. Quite a lot of monkeys, for instance, have teeth problems, and so we can sort that out before they arrive at the sanctuary and help them. So if they've been in pain or they're uncomfortable, we can help them with that. Grips, for example, has just had his blood tests, and we already know that they are showing very high sugar levels. We will have further tests to check his sort of long-term condition, but we suspect that because he's had a lot of sweet treats as a major part of his diet, he has got a problem, perhaps bordering on diabetes.
Some 3 hours later, the monkeys are put back into their transport boxes and, at last, taken to their final destination, the Wild Futures Monkey Sanctuary. Still shaky from anaesthetic, Gizzie was the first to be let into a new enclosure, followed by daughter Kiwi, and finally, and after some persuasion, Grips joined his two friends. The three will stay in this section of territory, which comprises both indoor and outdoor spaces, for the next 4 weeks as a settling-in period. After this begins the exciting, challenging and often eventful process of socialisation with the rescue centre's existing troop of capuchins.
Well, yeah, it's been pretty cold this last week since their arrival, but whenever the sun's out, they're out sunbathing and chatting away, and they're actually responding really nicely to all the other monkeys as well, and kind of interacting from a distance with them. So yeah, we've got great hopes for them, of them integrating with the others as well.